It's an old book. I was in front of a school that had thrown books out, so I took it. Shakespeare. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, that closes the book on the 2023 Yankee season, officially out of the playoffs for the first time since the 2016 season. Of course, we've all seen this coming around the corner for a while, and it's pretty evident really the last 2 months of the season. But of course, now here we are. It's official. Yankees not in the playoffs, and it's kind of a bummer because it's the postseason. It's cold. It's fall. A little chill in the air. You get the leaves coming down. You hear the Canadian geese flying from Canada down to Florida, and you get all this like October baseball stuff. But of course, no Yankees there, so kind of a bummer. So we'll kind of look back at these final weeks of the season, some revelations, some positives, some negatives. Also an update on Jason Dominguez's successful Tommy John surgery. Again, someone we have to kind of wait a little bit for next season, but let's kind of get all those details, as well as surgery planned for Ohtani, who's going to be a big name once the baseball season is over. And of course, he's going to be the big prize come free agency. So we'll kind of get into all that stuff. And then, of course, we'll highlight Garrett Cole, who had a very strong performance in his final start for the Yankees. And we'll kind of look at his 2023 campaign, which I guess he was one of the few bright spots of this Yankee season. We'll look at his numbers where he's almost a shoo-in for the Cy Young Award, and I'll kind of break down the numbers and explain to you why. So get into a lot of good stuff, but before we do, we got a long off season ahead of us. So watching me here, it's great, but you want to get more stuff, more Yankee Section 420 Talkin Yankees content, you have to go wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Sign up and kind of get more updates than you see me here. So yeah, I'm on YouTube and on TV once in a while. That's great, but can't do that every day. But it's easy to do it by recording audio. So if you want to get more Yankee stuff and you can't get anywhere else, make sure you're a podcast subscriber. And if you're watching on YouTube, go to YouTube, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. Make sure to subscribe and get notified when new episodes come up here as well. So we came into the season with World Series aspirations, just where this roster was put together, and of course spending the big money in the offseason on Judge and Rondon. Kind of you had a team that was just right there, and you figured maybe just add that extra piece of Rondon there, and a couple of players to turn around a little bit. Maybe they go finally leapfrog over the Houston Astros, but this team just completely fell apart this season. Again, was underwhelming early on, and even remember back in June when Hal Steinbrenner was like, why are you guys panicking? It's like, well, yeah, we're in last place. This is not where it's supposed to be, and we figured at some point it would turn around. I was very optimistic things would turn around, but it never actually did. And of course, we had the horrific Judge toe injury out in the Dodger Stadium there, and that really KO'd the season. And then from there, obviously, some of the Yankees you were expecting to pick up the slack and turn it around, such as Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, really didn't do that. And again, by the time Judge came back, it was all too late. And of course, Rondon has to go down yet again for another stretch. Again, this team was just never able to put it together finally. And then it came to time where, they decided to clean house. Aaron Hicks was already gone. Already shipped out Josh Donaldson and kind of brought up some of the young guys and changed the team a little bit and the dynamic there. But again, at that point, it was already too late for this team there. So again, real bummer. I can't remember a Yankee season like this. Obviously, I have discussed on the podcast, why you subscribe, that there have been previous Yankee seasons like 2008. 2013, 2014, where they didn't make the postseason. But those years, those were kind of like beat up Yankee teams. They were on the old side. You didn't have really those type of expectations you had with this team. I mean, this is still relatively a young team. I mean, Judge is only like 30, 31 years old. Cole's still in the early 30s there. So, you still had better expectations for this team. So this was probably definitely a tougher pill to swallow than in 2008 when, A-Rod hurt his hip early and Jorge Posada was hurt. And again, that team just never put it together. It was, never got off the ground. And by the 13 or 14 Yankees teams, again, the core four pretty much all gone. You had the final years of Mariano and Jeter. So, even they didn't make the playoffs those seasons, again, it wasn't really a big disappointment because you didn't have the expectations coming in. This year, 2023, we expected this team to, almost World Series a bust in that way. And they didn't make the playoffs. So quite a monumental, fall for the Yankees. And again, they're going to have this whole offseason to kind of hash all that out. I guess the only bright spot is that, it almost looked like this Yankee team was going to finish dead last in the AL East. Well, at least they have the dignity of that will definitely, at very worst, they'll finish fourth. So whatever victory that is, and of course the Red Sox will finish last, just because where the math works out there. So that's really the only good part to say about this season. You want to finish dead last. And the AL East ended up going to the Baltimore Orioles, who just really were hot from the start. And they pretty much had the Yankees number all season. I mean, the Yankees, really couldn't get ahead of them. And, I'm going to later in the episode kind of compare both organizations that really they weren't that far apart. It was just that Baltimore just does one thing a little bit better than the Yankees does, and that's hitting, but I'll kind of get into the numbers there. But Baltimore will represent the AL East. And I guess of all the other teams there, you kind of rather have them. Obviously, you don't want the Red Sox because they're the Red Sox, even though that rivalry's been dead a little bit. And you don't want Tampa or Toronto as the AL East champions because, the Yankees have been a little bit more chipper with them lately. So Baltimore's almost like, all right, there's no one really to hate on Baltimore. And, Baltimore and the Yankees really haven't been a rival in quite a while. And it's pretty much a young team. And I know Aaron Hicks went there and you kind of want to see him fail a little bit in a way. But nevertheless, you don't really hate the Baltimore Orioles. So if any other team in the AL East could get the American League crown other than the Yankees, I guess you would settle for Baltimore. Now, the last glimmer of hope this team had of, getting one of those wild card spots was when they brought up Jason Dominguez as well as Everson Pereira. And Dominguez gave it that thrill again. He comes up first at bat, hits a home run off of Verlander, and the Yankees sweep the Houston Astros in Houston. You almost see drop, and then overall you see this guy, in 8 games hitting 4 home runs, and you think, hey, maybe they could have a late season, a little late surge to get one of those final spots there. But of course, then when Dominguez gets hurt and it's announced that his season's over, he's going to need Tommy John surgery, that officially flushed the season down the toilet for the Yankees. So now last time we had an update, he was between either doing the Tommy John surgery or this other procedure called internal brace, which is, I guess, less invasive, and he could have came back quicker, but he decided to go with the Tommy John. So the schedule that they projected back then is going to probably be what it is. You look like he's not going to be back till June or July of the 2024 season. So, you're not going to have him there at the start, but should be there midway through. So again, if the team is good, at least, if you can inject him midway, of course, that's all the more better. But, that's just something. And it looks like the surgery was successful right after he was kind of taking pitches and everything like that. So, I'm sure they got this down to a science, so it shouldn't be really any problems there. Now, another big name also going to have procedure at the end of this season is going to be Shohei Ohtani. Now, he did have Tommy John surgery, a couple of years back. Now, this is going to be a procedure to almost reinforce that, which is kind of bizarre, but, I hope they don't cut anything crazy there. And so this is like a reinforcing of the Tommy John surgery, which is like, why didn't you reinforce it the first time? But nevertheless, so now, according to this doctor, he'll be fully ready to be a position player and hit for the 2024 season, but we know with Ohtani, he's a two-way player. He's not going to be able to pitch until the 2025 season. So it's going to be kind of interesting as free agency comes along. It might cost him a little bit of money because obviously you would pay someone like him. You want him to be a pitcher and hit a two-way player right away. It just seems like the pitching portion of it, you're going to have to wait another year. It's probably not going to hit him that bad in the pocketbook, but probably would hit him a little bit. But still, it's Ohtani. It's a big draw there. I mean, he's going to get anywhere from $400 to $500 million, probably more on the $500 million side there, regardless. And, of course, he's a marketing magnet. So if you do spend a lot of money on him, he's probably bringing a lot of advertisement money as well there. So you probably make your money back on him. Now, we'll probably just do a little more deeper dives in future episodes, should the Yankees go after him or not. Sure, I wouldn't mind having him, but it just doesn't seem likely at this point. Just the amount of money he's going to command, especially now Hal's been a little bit more worried about the luxury tax and be a little bit more thrifty. Not that I'm saying he's cheap, but it's not the old days of just blow out the budget, and the Yankees don't operate like the Dodgers where they just don't care about going over the luxury tax like that. So I don't see him come to the Yankees. I don't see him paying the big money for that guy, especially getting all the money the Yankees invested, this past offseason, like, $500 million total in Judge and Rendon, and he's going to add more payroll. Now, I know some payroll's coming off, but still, that's a lot of payroll to do that. And plus, where are you going to put the guy? He's probably mostly going to be a DH. Well, you kind of have that spot covered with Giancarlo Stanton. I know you could rotate and give Judge a day off maybe like that and flip-flop a little bit, but I just don't think, with Stanton still on his team and with Stanton still with $98 million left on his deal, I just don't think there's any room for Ohtani. I know he could probably try to find room some way, but as great as a player as he is, just for the money they already have committed to Stanton, and again, the money they've already spent last offseason, I just don't see how greenlighting like that, even though, yes, Ohtani would bring in a ton of fanfare and advertising and stuff like that. Again, remember with, Matsui back in the day, he had the ads, behind him in the outfield as well. So, they work out something similar, but I just don't see them pulling the trigger Ohtani there. So we'll see how that goes. But you're certainly, Ohtani's going to be the big name once we get into the offseason. And not making the playoffs is only, obviously it's bad for you, me, and the fan, But of course, now you look at the Yankee organization. Well, they lose money. Because now, obviously, if you don't have any games, you're not sharing any TV rights, and if somehow the Yankees could have maybe got ahead, to the next round and get some home games at Yankee Stadium, again, that's additional incremental revenue for the New York Yankee organization. Not only think of the seats, but the hot dogs and the beers, the whole 9 yards, and the T-shirts. Well, now that's all wiped out for the New York Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner, which is even more the reason why I just don't think he's going to shell out the money where, if he didn't make some extra money for this postseason as well. Now, Hal, as I mentioned before, he's going to start looking at some third parties, outside help, to kind of look at this organization, vet it, what's going on with how they draft, what's going on with some of the transactions they made, the trades they made. So, this is kind of, I think, a bit of an indirect shot at Brian Cashman. I would not expect, I know people wanted to fire Cashman, and of course there was that fire Cashman night I mentioned. It was the September 22nd game at Yankee Stadium, which I mentioned, which seemed to be kind of underwhelming and a disappointment. You heard some smatterings of the fire Cashman chant, but it really wasn't a big, as we expected. He had a couple of signs and stuff like that, but it really wasn't the big thing as we thought it was. And this is kind of, makes the whole thing look bad when the Yankees actually have a good game. That's the game the Yankees won 7-1. Luke Weaver, who's someone Cashman got off the scrap heap. You're like, who is this guy? But he pitches 5 2/3 innings, has a good start there. And of course, Aaron Judge, tees off in that game, hits 3 home runs. So, if that's the case there, obviously it looks like the team is not really interested in firing Cashman. They're professionals, they're going to play good anyway. But, if there was any situation where they wanted to send a message like that, where they're not happy with the organization or the GM, it would have been that game, but it didn't look like that was the case there. So I don't know how much really that made a difference, more or less. And then after the game, they did ask Judge, and for the most part, if you read between the lines, he pretty much had Cashman's back and just said it's on us for the players. But he also said we have a lot of work to do. So I think also maybe that's also a little indirect shot at Cashman, but not too harsh. Just saying that yes, it's us on the players, but overall as an organization, they have a lot of work to do in terms of the players they're bringing in here to help improve this team there. And as for Cashman, again, I don't expect any sort of move again with 3 years left on a deal like that. I don't think Hal's going to do any knee-jerk reaction. You're not going to pay a guy, as I said many times before, for 3 years just to sit at home on the couch. Yes, it's not going to happen. So you'll definitely have Cashman, I say, for 2024. Now, if that season gets off to a bad start, then maybe you can see some rumblings where an organizational move might happen there. But other than that, I think Cashman is good there for 2024. And as for the hitting coach, Sean Casey, it's really hard to evaluate, if he's had a good impact or not. Some players have been doing well. It seems like Gleyber Torres has benefited from him. Gio Colstan, a little uptick, but nothing great drastically like that. But as long as he likes it, excited, it seems like the organization likes him. I could also see him back as well next year in a Yankee uniform. So I know I've been throwing a lot of negativity at you, so maybe we'll just try to brighten things up a little bit, even though it's going to be mostly a negative episode because it is negative they're not making the playoffs. But that would be the performance of Garrett Cole this season. Again, the lone bright spot for the Yankees, the kind of one consistent the Yankees had this entire season. Again, gave you an ace-like performance the entire way. And if you look at his numbers, which we'll break down in a second, probably should be, definitely shoo-in for the American League Cy Young Award. It will be his first. So he's gotten some ERA titles before. He's been an All-Star multiple times. But what's eluded him has been the Cy Young Award. So good to see him get one and get one in a Yankee uniform. Just kind of off the top of my head, I think the last time possibly was with Roger Clemens going back to 2001. So it's been quite a while since the Yankees had a Cy Young Award winner. So looks like we're on the way there with Garrett Cole. And if you look at his record overall, 15-4. And again, if he was on a little bit of a better Yankee team, he probably should have some more wins there. But ERA under 3 at 2.63. With 222 strikeouts in 209 innings. So he's averaging more strikeout per inning. And of course, his final game there against Toronto, up in Toronto, dominating performance, 9 innings, a complete game. Just a two-hitter with two-hitter with 5 strikeouts there. So again, ending the season on an exclamation point. I figured maybe they baby him a little bit just to end the season, just because all right, you got to start thinking about preserving things on for next year, and if these games don't really mean anything in late September, why push him too much? But they did push him all the way in that final game there. So again, a good way to end the season for him. And you want to do that up in Toronto, just because again, Yankees Toronto's been kind of rival a little bit. I know Alex Manoah's not there anymore. He was the whole next time jump over and cross the line thing. That guy's season completely went washed out there. So his career almost looks like it's gone. Nevertheless, Cole there standing strong, and it's a good bounce back for Cole just for the fact that We remember last year with him, in the whole thing when they started checking the substance on the hands and, allegations that he was using the spider tack and he wasn't using it anymore. He wasn't the same pitcher. And again, he did struggle last season for a long stretch there. They looked at the spin rate wasn't the same. He was getting clocked all over the place. Had a lot of bizarre games where he would give up 5 runs in 1 inning. So he this season you didn't see that version of Cole. So whatever I don't know if he's using a different substance or he different grip, whatever it is, he seemed to figure it out. So and get bounced back because you remember about a season ago, we were almost biting our nails okay, well, we got this guy for a bunch more years. We just shelled out $324 million for this guy, and he's not even a real ace. He's not a real pitcher without the spider tack stuff. So whatever it is, feeling like Cole figured it out, put a good season together for the New York Yankees. And again, this is, and ending the season on a hot note, you'd like a guy like that. You could ride him to the playoffs there, but unfortunately, this year, not going to be the case. I think the only silver lining to that is that now if he's not lugging innings on his arm for the postseason, that's at least saving those bullets for 2024. So, that's the only good thing to take away from that. Ironically, across town for the Mets, you have Kodai Senga, might be a Cy Young Award winner for the New York Mets, and would be kind of interesting and actually kind of crazy that if you could have 2 Cy Young Award winners, one from the Yankees, one from the Mets, yet both teams disappointingly don't make the postseason. Could possibly see that happen. Now, obviously, Cole's more likely to get the Cy Young Award than Senga, but it is possible that both could get it. And again, it would be just really anticlimactic for them because again, both teams are not going to the postseason. And if you want to look at some other numbers with the backup Garrett Cole, he has 24 quality starts this season. Now, quality start means you have to go 6 innings and give up 3 runs or less. He leads the American League with 24 of those. The second person up is former Met Chris Bassett for the Toronto Blue Jays, who has 21 there. So Cole has 3 more quality starts than him. So overall, there's really no one out there that can really overtake Cole's numbers. You could look at wins, and that would be Kevin Kostman for also the Toronto Blue Jays with 17 wins compared to Cole's 15 there. But obviously, Cole's on a team that's not even in the playoffs there, so I don't think they'll fault him too much for that. And if you look at ERAs, the only person closest to Garrett Cole and Cole's with 2.63 would be our old friend Sonny Gray there with Minnesota, but his 3.79 there. So Cole's is way ahead of him as well. So again, this thing is really a shoo-in for Garrett Cole, but it'd be funny if Cole and Senga get it, but again, no postseason. So Cole, the bright spot, of course, the dark cloud over this team the entire season has been Carlos Rodon. Big disappointment, signing a big contract, $162 million to start the season there, and it never got underway for him. Again, he had 1 start in spring training, got hurt there, and it didn't turn out we didn't get to see this guy until midway in the season. Pitched a little bit, wasn't that great, then gets hurt again in that game against the Astros at home, and then finally comes back, and really it's been a complete mess, and his final start of the season has been the opposite of what Garrett Cole did. See, Cole went a full 9 innings. This guy couldn't even get 1 out in the first inning. Absolutely miserable game against a team, the Royals, 50 games under 500. Again, couldn't get 1 person out. He threw 34 pitches, and this is an ugly performance for him, which has just been an absolutely ugly season, and you really got to be wondering, was this a bad free agency signing? Injuries can happen more or less. It's always up there in the air there, but this guy's attitude's been terrible. And in that final game, pitching coach Matt Blake came out, kind of talked to him, and he was kind of turning his back a little bit. I understand him, you're embarrassed, pitching well, you're a little upset there, but almost like turning his back on the pitching coach like that. Just a bad body language. I remember that game back in Anaheim when he was getting booed off the mound by the Yankee fans in California, blowing kisses to them there. So this guy's, I don't know, could be a bit of a jerk or something, or just, really not really someone that's going to fit in here with the New York Yankee organization. Remember I was reminiscent of something like an A.J. Burnett or a Jack McDowell. Some people just really could have put it together here and be successful here. Or you remember like Randy Johnson came here, even though way past his prime. His first day in New York, he pushes over a photographer. It's like, some of these guys may not work out, so I don't think we'll go there yet with Carlos Rodon, but you're seeing a lot of bad signs, and this season for him, not good for the New York Yankees. 14 starts, pitching 64 and third innings there, and an ERA 6.85, so almost pitching to a 7 ERA there, so totally not what the Yankees expected, and of course some injuries mixed in along the way. Poor performance, and again, ended the season basically this is a microcosm of the whole season by just getting annihilated by the Royals in the first inning there, so bad job on him. Now, after the game, he said, he wants to get away from baseball a little bit and kind of just get his head clear, then get back into his off-season regimen. Well, what do you mean? I don't know what he means when he wants to get out of baseball. He's been out of baseball this whole season there, so he's been missing in action the whole way, and so bad job by him. And he's not a rookie. He's early. He's like 30, 31 years old. Shouldn't be acting like this. So he's definitely gonna have to bounce back in a big way next season. He should almost give his salary back to the Yankees for the season. Sorry about this one. I'll give you back a year, and maybe that'll rectify it. And as the season went down, we discovered Michael King is actually a good, competent starter. Now, I was kind of against the idea. I liked him in that role, again, coming out in the 7th and 8th inning, kind of be a la Mariano Rivera 96, kind of just blowing away, going max effort where he just blow guys away, 6 outs, and then turn the ball over to the closer. I kind of like King in that role. I kind of still like King in that role, but you can't ignore the results. Since they've been stretching out and using him as a starter, he's been very good. And you look at that home game against Diamondbacks, went 7 innings, just had one run, which was basically it was from an error, but of course a sparkling, lucky 13 strikeouts. And then if you figure if that was a fluke, well, his next start up in Toronto throws 6 shutout innings in a game that the Yankees end up winning. So 2 strong back-to-back performances to close out his season. And again, he's going to be in consideration as the Yankees look to fill out their starting rotation next season. He's probably definitely going to be one of those guys because his stuff has just been electric, and you really can't ignore the results. Now, I still like him as a bullpen weapon there, but if you get a starter, I'd say it's always more valuable. So definitely for the 2024 season, unless something crazy happens, they're at least going to try to stretch him out for a starter the whole way. Now, he's never lugged that many innings, so they're probably going to have to baby him like a heck to get him, of course, the whole 2024 season. So they're going to have to manage that as they go along. But again, it looks like Michael King is the real deal for a starter. Now, initially when he came up with the Yankees a couple of seasons ago, he was a starter, but again, had some inconsistency, got hurt a few times, never able to put it together. So it kind of almost like threw him in the bullpen as like, all right, well, kind of to try to find a way to survive in there, and he kind of relegated himself in that late inning role kind of before handing the ball over to Clay Holmes there. And of course, the Yankees sometimes would use him as a closer as well if, want to give Holmes a day off there. So part of that trio, but again, he's really flourishing now as a starter. So if that's what he could be, then great. That's probably what you're looking for 2024. Now on the flip side, look at Johnny Brito, who was kind of up and down as a starter, but since he's kind of gone into a long relief role himself, he's really flourished. And since April 24th in 22 innings, pitched to an ERA of 1.19. So really flourishing there as a long reliever. So maybe if they could flip-flop roles, so if King's going to be a starter, and someone who Brito, who they were planning to be a starter, but maybe now he could be the bullpen guy there. So you might see a flip-flop of those two guys going into the 2024 season. Also, we see Vasquez as well doing some long relief and being successful there. So, you have a disappointment, someone you're paying a lot of money to in Rendon, but you got guys making peanuts who are pitching well for the Yankees and look to be some good weapons going into next season. And along with Jason Dominguez coming up to the majors, the Yankees also brought up Austin Wells as a catcher, and we kind of been hearing about him for a couple of seasons, and it's kind of seemed like his growth has been stunted a little bit, had some defensive problems. But you got to say, since his time up here, his tenure up here in the Bronx has been overall pretty good. Now the batting average is kind of low, you don't like to see that, but overall 4 home runs, and one of them a real clutch home run again in that series in Toronto. Game tied 0-0 in the 9th. It's a 2-run home run opposite field shot there, so kind of a gutsy home run there, and overall defensively been okay. No big, really major blunders there. Again, that's always kind of been his thing, that his defense is a little shaky there, but overall pretty stable. And in some of the small handful of successful calls for Rendon starts, it's been Austin Wells who's been catching him there. So I don't think he's intimidated by the moment. I don't think he's intimidated by the whole Yankee Stadium aura and magic and all that stuff there. And he's a bit of a character guy. He's got the mustache, and you kind of get little thoughts of like Thurman Munson and his mustache there, so you kind of a little nostalgia there. So I think it's a bright spot for the Yankees moving forward for next season. And now the Yankees got some options. Of course, you got Austin Wells. You have, of course, Ben Rovette. We know about that. But, of course, the Yankees have the catchers that they started with the season. Now you have Jose Trevino, who had actually had surgery during the season. He should be ready for next season, as well as Higgy out there as well. So now the Yankees really have 4 catchers. So the Yankees do have some options. Of course, as you know, Rovette and Wells and both well under control, and Trevino and Higgy arbitration eligible there, so the Yankees could kind of figure out what they're going to do with that. If I had to take a guess, of all of them, I think they would want to stick with Trevino, even though maybe Wells might be better with a bat, and because obviously he offers the benefit of a left-handed bat, which the Yankees usually lack, and of course you get a left-handed bat from Rovette as well. But I think they like the idea of Trevino and his framing. He seems to be one of the best framers in baseball. Again, you want to get someone who can steal those strikes on the edges there, especially if you have a terrible umpire like Angel Hernandez. So I think you see Trevino in the Yankees' plans going for next year. Now, who's going to be the backup catcher? I think Higgies is going to be the odd man out somehow. Now, again, as I mentioned, he's arbitration eligible, but they could either either maybe designate him for assignment or maybe include him in a trade. And I think a lot of teams will take him. I mean, he's a pretty good framer himself. Bops you an occasional home run. Again, he's not an offensive force. We all know that, but defensively pretty darn good and good for pretty good throwing out runners as well. And Rovette would probably be more the odd man out just because I was not enough space for him. Now we've seen him in small glimpses this season. And again, he's been all right, and even Cole's thrown to him, no problem like there, and he can bop an occasional home run as well. But I think Wells is obviously he's a higher prospect than Rovette. So if you're going to play someone a little bit more, you're going to play Wells more than Rovette. So we'll see what the Yankees do. Again, they do have some options, and of course, someone always gets hurt, and that usually solves it. But if I had to take a guess right now, you're looking at next year the starting lineup. Trevino will be starting a catcher, and it'll probably be Austin Wells backing him up, sitting on the bench. As I mentioned at the top, the Baltimore Orioles are the 2023 American League East champions. And you want to compare that organization to the Yankee organization. You almost seem like going in two different directions. You got Baltimore, got a kind of a group of young guys that play an excitable baseball, and the Yankees are kind of a lot of lumbering veterans that just kind of hit home runs. That's kind of been pretty much their personality the entire season. Now the Yankees kind of tailed that a little bit towards the end by bringing up some of the young guys, but overall those are kind of the two kind of characteristics of each team. So you want to think, why did one team top of the AL East, and why is one team at the basement? Well, you look at kind of the old-fashioned hitting the ball, seeing the ball and hitting the ball, and that's what Baltimore does way better than the Yankees. Now, pitching-wise, if you look at the Yankee organization and the Orioles, they're just about the same in terms of ERA, strikeouts, wins, and stuff like that. So it's not like Baltimore is like out-pitching the Yankees a lot. They just hit the Yankees, out-hit the Yankees, and they keep the ball within the ballpark. They don't rely on home runs. So if you look at the Yankees, they're about second to last in hits in the entire Major League Baseball, only better than the lowly Oakland A's, which aren't even a real baseball team at this point. So the Yankees are just barely able to get more hits than a team that should be in the minors. Whereas the Baltimore Orioles, they're ninth in baseball. So almost 20 teams better than the Yankees in getting hits. And of course, the more excitable one, doubles, which is relies on athleticism, running around a base and not tweaking a hamstring like Giancarlo Stanton. Baltimore's third in baseball, and the Yankees are almost again way down the list there. So Baltimore's not doing anything crazy, and if you look up and down their roster, like no one's having a monster MVP season. It's not like they're catching lightning in a bottle. Again, team batting average is not really that much worse than the Yankees. I mean, the team batting average is around 250. Now, the Yankees are kind of like in the basement at 220, but even 250 is not anything to be proud of either. So it's not like Baltimore's doing anything fantastic. They're just basically hitting singles and hitting doubles and, again, scoring more runs and winning more games, and that's how they're doing it. So this Yankee team, as they look at the offseason, especially if Hal's doing this third-party consultant stuff, they got to put a team together that's just going to get hits and doubles, old-fashioned baseball, which shouldn't be a problem. That they changed the rules at the beginning of this offseason. No more doubles, no more shifts and stuff like that. So there should be no reason for this to happen. Even though with all these rule changes, the Yankees still went with their old MO of this, pretty much scoring by home runs. I mean, half their runs are scored via the home run, so they got to find a way to change that. Play a little bit more small ball, inside the park ball, a little more excitement, a little more enthusiasm, getting doubles and stuff like that, putting pressure on the pitcher there where, if you got to run on second to start the inning, well, you can bunt someone over, and then you get a sacrifice fly, and you get a run in without even getting an official hit, and kind of that's how it works there. So that's what, the difference between both organizations. So we'll see. Hopefully Cashman and these consultants all can work together and, put that together for the 2024 Yankees. And what stings probably the worst about this postseason is that the irony of ironies, both Aaron Hicks and Josh Donaldson are going to be competing in the postseason with their respective teams. Of course, the Yankees cut Hicks, and they got picked up by the Baltimore Orioles. And, hey, look, had a pretty decent season with them, turned things around. He figured out whatever it was. Maybe it was just getting out of New York. And Josh Donaldson, after the Yankees cut him, Milwaukee got him on a minor league deal. And then he graduated to the majors there, and obviously he's been bopping occasional home runs for the Brewers himself. So both the players will be going to the postseason. Again, these were public enemies number 1 and 2 in pinstripes, who we couldn't wait to get out of here, and they go elsewhere, and now they're going to the postseason. So very unfair, very terrible. But of the two situations, I'll say at least Aaron Hicks corrected himself, and I'll say, he got Baltimore in there. They would probably had it in there anyway without him. Same with the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, they were going to the postseason anyway, so it's not like Donaldson got there and turned into a great play to help them around. But of the two of them, at least Aaron Hicks turned things around. Josh Donaldson is still the same. And in fact, when he even entered the Milwaukee Brewers clubhouse, instead of introducing himself, which is kind of custom, he just says, they know who I am, and walk by him. So still a chip on his shoulder. But obviously, it's a situation where I think, you're probably rooting for them to both fail. So that's the episode. Even though the Yankees are going to be gone for the rest of this year, we are not here at Section 420 Talking Yankees, so make sure you subscribe. So on YouTube, Section 420 Talking Yankees, subscribe, and make sure to go over that way to get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talking Yankees. A lot of stuff coming up as we now enter the off season.